Welcome to another edition of the In the Ring show with your host, Devious Damien. And, well, unfortunately, I was kind of going for the Impact Wrestling logo back there, but it's kind of a glare on the TV. You can't really see it, unfortunately. But if you can make out the colors and the flame, you get the point. But anyway, this is my review of tonight's Impact for the day of 2/23/12. First, with the opening segment, we had Bobby Roode coming out, talking about Sting's tweet of "I'm done." That was, done earlier in the week, saying, how he's basically ended the career of Sting, and basically concluded the whole thing by saying, "Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out." Then we have another little segment with Morgan and Crimson talking about who's to blame for the tag team championship loss. They decide, okay, screw it, doesn't matter. We're just going to go out there and win the belts back. So then after the break, you get Morgan and Crimson against Joe and Magnus. Joe and Magnus retain the titles due to another miscommunication between Morgan and Crimson. So they're kind of leading up to a feud there, which I kind of think they've already done a little something like this already, kind of repetitive. If they can find a new way to do it, keep it fresh, okay. Hard for me to believe, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So then the next thing that happens, Brandon Jacobs comes out, promo about Bully Ray, the whole incident from the previous week's Impact. He calls out Bully Ray. Bully Ray comes out. He gets on the crowd. Bully Ray, he starts getting on the crowd for chanting for Brandon Jacobs. Bully Ray teases that there's going to be a fight, but then walks away, and Brandon Jacobs chases Bully Ray to the back.
And Jacobs did it pretty good.
Yeah, Jacobs, that was in the background. She doesn't like to appear on camera, but that was my off-screen partner, Devastating Deb. Adding that, yeah, Brandon Jacobs did improve his skills this time. You could tell he was nervous, but, he didn't stutter and stammer like frickin' Boronitis usually does all the time. Anyway. So then you had another backstage segment, again. Now, okay, before I mention this, I want to mention that by the time this segment happened, we're almost pretty close to 40 minutes into the show and only had one match at this point. Kind of pathetic, but it is what it is. So anyway, back to the segment I was talking about. With James Storm, Jeff Hardy, and Brandon Jacobs. Brandon Jacobs saying, "I want a piece of Bully Ray." James Storm whispers in his ear, and then they just kind of end the segment right there. So next we have Zema Ion versus Alex Shelley. During the course of the match, Austin Aries comes out with a thing of popcorn and a glass of some wine or champagne or whatever. I'm not really.
Some sort of red wine.
Yeah, some sort of red wine. Zema Ion wins the match after blinding Shelley with his hairspray can and doing some weird fucking move that I don't even know what the fuck the move was called or what the hell it's even supposed to accomplish. But whatever, Zema Ion gets the victory. Another useless segment. Garrett Bischoff talking about how he's coming back and he vows to just keep fighting. Hogan telling him to just, you made your point, get out of the business, you got a big target on your back, just let it go. Garrett refuses. Whatever. So next, another segment. I'm going to talk about my opinion about this, the whole thing after I'm done with this review. So Madison Rayne, a little backstage segment with her, talk about how she wants Sting gone, explains her actions in the Knockout Battle Royal, saying that she did it for Gail, so Gail would have top-notch competition. Where they're going with this storyline, I'm not really sure, but whatever. So next we have ODB versus Gail Kim. Gail Kim wins in a match that was okay, I guess. It got all clustered because TNA's got Eric Young doing this bullshit fucking comedy thing, but I'll give my opinion of that in a few minutes here. Another segment, more segment than action here. AJ Styles vows to get, just forget about the drama with Daniels and Kazarian and focus on winning the TNA World Heavyweight title. So yeah, then they go to commercial. And then another segment airs with the Jesse Sorensen segment. Jesse and his family discuss his injury. Basically how he felt after the injury, how his family felt, and stuff like that.
Which that segment was needed.
Yeah, that segment I can understand. That segment I felt necessary. But I'm going to get into my opinion of, the segments afterwards. I'm going to continue with the review of what happened. We had AJ Styles against Robbie E. AJ Styles. This was for the television championship, by the way. Robbie E retains due to AJ Styles winning by DQ because of Kazarian's interference. But Kazarian basically rams Styles' head into the ring post after he pulls AJ off the apron. To Daniels appearing to be astonished by Kazarian's actions. Where they're going, I don't know. But where they're going with the whole storyline, don't know. Bully Ray and Kurt Angle against Jeff Hardy and James Storm with Brandon Jacobs in their corner. This was a no DQ match. Storm and Hardy win after Brandon Jacobs chokeslams Bully Ray through a table. And the chokeslam actually looked pretty good, which kind of surprised me because...
It looks great.
Yeah, it looked damn good considering, you have Brandon Jacobs, who's a football player, delivering it. Now, in fairness, you have to give credit to Bully Ray because, it takes two to make a move look good. So...
But there was one problem with it. I'm a Giants fan, so of course I'm going to like Jacobs. But they never once showed Jeff Hardy after the win.
Yeah, that is true. They didn't
Which I'm a diehard Jeff Hardy fan too.
Yeah, excuse me. So they didn't put Jeff Hardy on camera at all after the victory. They focused on Storm and Jacobs, which I sort of understand it, because that's basically what this match you knew going in that's what it was going to be centered around. What was going to happen between Bully Ray and Brandon Jacobs. You knew that going into it. But even so.
They raised their arms at the end, the two of them. Not Hardy.
Jacobs technically wasn't even part of this match. I say technically because, he wasn't officially a part of the match. But he played a big hand in it, obviously, as I just discussed. But they raised him and Jacobs and Storm's hand, but not Hardy. And Hardy was just... It's almost like he just up and left the ring or something. And I don't mean just the ring itself, I mean the whole ringside area. Whether he did or not, I don't know, but it just, it seemed that way. So then they closed the show with a Sting promo discussing his "I'm done" tweet. Being kind of vague, just basically saying, yep, I'm done, so on and so forth. Out comes Bobby Roode, once again proceeds to take credit for retiring Sting. Sting takes his sunglasses off and says, no, you just woke me up. Proceeds to just smear face paint on his face in a very unorganized manner, going back to basically the Insane Icon thing, and basically announces that it's going to be him and Roode at Victory Road. No surprise, I think most people knew that's what they were going for from the get-go, ever since they started the whole, Sting as the babyface boss, trying to, screw over a heel champion but failing. I think a lot of fans knew that they were going to go to Sting and Roode at Victory Road. No surprise. Sting low blows Roode and throws the microphone at him to close the show. So now, as far as my opinion on this TNA show, I'm gonna have to, if I out of 5 stars, I'd have to say maybe 2.5. Only because the matches were okay, but too many unnecessary segments. Way too many.
The segments were okay, just there was too many.
Oh, yeah,
they should have spread them out.
I mean, okay, I'll give TNA credit when they do backstage segments. They're usually more serious in nature and more feeding into storylines than the WWE usually. But even so, you can still, you can water down a program with too many segments. And TNA did that here. The Jesse Sorensen one, I can definitely understand.
And the Sting one.
And the Sting one. That, those two are necessary. AJ Styles talking about being focused on the World Heavyweight title. You didn't need that on Impact.
Even the Madison Rain one, what was left off from last week, so that can be seen.
Yeah, the Madison Rain one. Okay, I can let that one slide because
it wasn't long.
Yeah, it wasn't that long, and it fed into a storyline between her and Gail Kim, so I can kind of let that one slide a little bit, and say, okay, I can understand that one.
And when are they going to stop with the Eric Young retard act?
Thank you for thank you for saying that, because that's something I was going to get into. Instead of wasting my time talking about some of the segments I felt were unnecessary, they need to stop turning Eric Young into the TNA version of Eugene. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, back for years in the WWE, they had this guy whose real name, well, I don't know if it was his real name, but he performed on the Independents for years as Nick Dinsmore. From what I hear, he actually was a very talented wrestler. But when he got to WWE, they had him playing the retarded nephew of Eric Bischoff. Now, I never got to see Nick Dinsmore before he started portraying the character of Eugene, so I don't know exactly how good he was, unfortunately. I guess I'll have to YouTube some of his matches. But basically they had him going out and doing all these ridiculous things. Made
himself look like a fool.
Yeah, made him look like a fool. Basically, no fan was going to take this guy Eugene. I mean, nobody was going to take Eugene seriously at all whatsoever. And
he was 100 times worse than Santino.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Santino always does. They have him doing the most intelligent things, but at least when Santino does things that are a little bit unintelligent, at least it's entertaining. When Eugene did it, you almost felt sorry for the guy. You did. You're almost like, God, is this? I don't know. I don't know who I felt more sorry for, the fans for having to watch it, or the guy having to portray that stupid character. I mean, yeah, it kind of got over, but even so, I thought it was unneeded. But
and he usually lost, so you always felt bad for the guy.
Yeah. And of course, they played, and the thing with Eugene, and here's what really got me about it. They made sure to place emphasis on the fact that he was mentally challenged. And when he would lose, 9 times out of 10, it was because his opponent outsmarted him. Because Eugene, he's not very smart, so outsmarting him's not that hard.
He got over mainly because of sympathy.
Yeah. He got over mainly because of sympathy. And now they're doing the... I mean, I don't know if they're trying to... I don't know if they're... The whole retard thing is what they're going for with Eric Young. I'm not saying it is. But the act isn't far off, is my point. Locking up with the fans, trying to lock up with the referee, always trying to,
trying to tag in.
Yeah, trying to tag in even when it's a one-on-one match. Okay, if it was just a temporary thing that they were just doing for a couple weeks, okay, I'd let it slide. I'd like to, laugh a little bit. It was funny at first. I'll give it that. It was funny at first.
But where are they going with it now?
Yeah, where are they now?
Is it ever going to end?
Yeah, good question, Deb. I wonder, is it going to end? I mean, are they going to stop with this? I mean, Eric Young is a very talented wrestler. This I do know for a fact because I've seen Eric Young several times.
Yeah, we both have.
But
what about him and ODB? Where is that going to go? Is there anywhere else for it to go?
I seriously wonder if that's their way of trying to keep the whole, Eric acting goofy thing fresh. If it is, it's a shitty way to do it.
They're both good wrestlers, and it's just making everyone laugh at them.
I mean, if you want to keep them together, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to have Eric Young portraying this stupid gimmick to do it, though. You could actually put them over in a completely different way. You could actually have both of them kind of turn heel and, basically lash out at management for making them do this stupid bullshit. Kind of turn it into like a work-shoot kind of deal,
Yeah.
Where, they lash out at everybody for making them do it. They lash out at management by injuring wrestlers. That's, I would stop this, and that's where I'd go with it.
Yeah, but I don't foresee that happening.
No, they won't do it. But unfortunately, my time's beginning to run out here, so I have to say that this is all the time we have for the In the Ring show. And remember, we're entertaining ourselves while we entertain you. This has been Devious Damien and my off-screen partner, Devastating Deb, signing off.